Jessica Lance, I cannot hear you.
That's because I did my ghostly greetings, travelers. I don't know why I did it that way. I'm very sorry.
I was like, oh no, it's broken. What are we going to do?
You just cannot hit the right buttons to make life exist properly. But I am super excited because we are in Undead October, and I'm not going to wait too long before we bring our guest on. But I have to say something Mark would say because he's here with us in a ghostly form, so to speak.
In spirit.
In spirit. And he would say, we're, on a Halloween night, there are always more trick-or-treaters in the town than there are children. So this episode today makes me think of that. So without further ado, and bringing potentially alive, maybe, I don't know, you guys can decide for yourself, but one of our absolute faves is coming to join us for our favorite ghost haunted movies, Mr. J. Michael Roddy. Woo! Oh, that's creepy. That's
so cute.
Come play with us, Danny.
Oh.
Forever and ever and ever.
Oh,
that's
gosh.
a perfect ghost movie.
It is.
Yeah.
It might be on my list.
Well, good. So we won't do sneaky peekies yet, but
I just did.
You just did.
You did.
There's no rules with Michael.
Okay,
look behind me. There's a ghost.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
There's a head on a chair. There's a lot going on.
That's Kurt Barlow from Salem's Lot, one of the best TV movies ever made.
Did you watch the new one yet?
What's happening with the new Salem's Lot? Are you excited for that?
I'm very excited. I haven't watched it yet. I'm picking a night because the way I saw the original was so awesome and as a memory for me. And it's interesting because the original Salem's Lot came out in November, believe it or not.
Oh.
It missed Halloween, but I saw it on its original telecast in, I believe, 1979. And so it's one of my favorites, and I'm really excited. I've read a couple of reviews. I'm just like, man, I don't think, I don't know. Sometimes I just think people just can't be happy, but.
Yeah. And Stephen King, films and TV are very divisive.
Yeah.
I usually like them all just because I'm so happy he is has, films. So I'm just like, it's fine.
Yeah.
Okay.
It doesn't have to be perfect.
The people behind the scenes, I will say this. There are a lot of times, and I think this was very true. I've talked about this a little bit with the Star Wars franchise, but there are others like that there is so much time between when they decide to remake something and when they did the original that we've built all this lore and all this phenomenon behind it. And then they come in and they give their idea of what they think we want. And we're like, no.
We've created this other thing. Look at all this fanfic we've written.
Right. That's not how I would have done it. Well,
yeah. And then
to that I say, go do it. Go do it.
So I want to just tell you, so Mark, he's resting and everything, but he did have a chance to throw together his list, which I got.
Oh, good.
And he called out what he thought we were going to say, all three of us. So it'll be interesting to see if his predictions are true. So
really?
Yes.
I think he's going to be judgmental.
I feel like he's been reading this. It's a little judgmental, but it's okay. So I'm gonna throw it up there when we get to certain points. But I want to start with, what was the first ghost/haunted movie you remember seeing? So I'm gonna go with mine since I just posed this both to you as a question. And the first one I remember seeing was Poltergeist.
Oh, wow.
The original Poltergeist.
Wow.
Was the first true haunted ghost movie that I ever saw. Now, this might be on people's list, so I'm sorry if I do that, but I think that I remember they're here. Oh my God. That was my lesson in don't build on Indian burial grounds, although I feel like that rule is violated all the time.
Every day.
And clowns, that had a cacophony.
Yeah.
The skeleton floating up in the Ah!
Well, see,
I don't
you
remember.
say Poltergeist. That's the first one you remember seeing. You didn't see anything else before that.
Well, first ghost haunted movie that I remember seeing.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
There's a lot of judgment in your tone, Michael.
I know, it
No.
sounded
I'm
very
just surprised.
judgmental.
Like I would have thought little Erika would have seen other ghost stories before that, but that's great. No, Poltergeist is a great one. Although Poltergeist is not on my list.
Okay. What about you, Beau? Did Poltergeist make your list?
It did, but I didn't see it until much later in life, like 5 years ago. And
Oh,
whilst I liked it, I kind of liked the lore behind it, more of them making the movie and knowing
yeah,
all like the little like tidbits made it more interesting
yeah.
than the original movie is by itself.
No, and like that, and then we'll get to your guys's. You have to remember, I think I'd have to look up when the first original Poltergeist came out, but it was in the early 80s.
1982.
82. So I was 9 when that happened, right? And when you're 9 years old and you see stuff like that, it's kind of like the first Freddy Krueger, all that, like that imprinted. It was very, very scary. Now, in comparison to movies these days and how they do stuff and things like very different. But my little 9-year-old self, that scared the bejesus out of me. So that was mine. Beau, what was yours?
When I was a kid, I was very easily scared. And I had horrible untreated anxiety. So I wasn't big into horror until I was a teenager. But I think the first like ghost film or TV was like, I know I bring this up all the time, but it was Scooby-Doo. And it was like any episode was, a ghost that turned out just to be a normal guy. So it wasn't very scary. And I always think about like the Headless Horseman episode for some reason. Like that is the one that's like in my head with like Scooby-Doo and Scooby-Dum, who I liked a lot, even though no one likes Scooby-Dum.
No, no one does.
No, nobody does.
He's my boy. I love him in his little red hat.
That's
no, he ruined Scooby-Doo.
Yeah, we're moving on from that to Michael's first one that you remember seeing.
So the first one I remember seeing, and because there was a lot, but I'm gonna say it was probably The Legend of Sleepy Hollow, which the Disney version, right?
Mhm.
And when I was thinking about this list too, like what is the Headless Horseman a ghost or is he a phantom? But to me, that was the first one. That, and then also, growing up in the early 70s, Haunted Mansion, that 1-2 punch, Disney kind of owned Halloween for me and owned ghosts. But on the flip side of that, neither one, Legend of Sleepy Hollow is not on my list, although I love it more than anything. I watch it every year. I love the lore of the Headless Horseman. I think it's a great, great story. And I want to point out something about Poltergeist. Poltergeist came out the same summer as E.T.
No, but E.T. actually traumatized me that summer too, because like now as an adult, I can look at E.T. and go, oh, I get it. But as a child, what happened to them and the whole scientists and that was, I was so upset after seeing E.T. My mom could not calm me down for days.
Well, it's funny.
Like when they have the plastic tubes and they go through them.
Yeah, and the guy with the keys, the sound of the keys. Well, if you ever get a chance, there's a great documentary called 1982, The Greatest Geek Year Ever. And it still rings true because in that summer, or in the year of 1982, but in that summer alone, you had Poltergeist, E.T., The Thing, Star Trek II. I mean, the hits just kept on coming, right? It was a perfect summer. Every time you went it seemed like every weekend you went to the movie, there was a movie that would shape just your childhood. So, but it's funny because when I look at Poltergeist, there's so much stuff going on in there. I don't view it as a ghost story per se, even though ghosts are at the foundation of it. But there's also, this kind of undercurrent of the thing they call the beast that's on the other side, and then there's the skeletal zombies and all that kind of stuff. But no, Poltergeist is amazing. So that's a good one to be initiated
But you
into.
brought up the Legend of Sleepy Hollow, and I could bring up Sleepy Hollow because it comes to, you know, the witch summons him. If that's somehow a spoiler alert, guys, get out from under a rock. So
The movie is so old.
It is, but I sometimes get yelled at by travelers who are like, "You spoiled it." I'm like, that movie is 30 years old. I haven't spoiled anything. But you look at Sleepy Hollow and you go, is that a ghost movie? Because they're summoning a spirit and they're, you know, but because when I was looking up movies and trying to refresh myself with some of my favorites, like The Exorcist came up under a ghost movie, and I'm like,
that's not a ghost movie.
I don't think that qualifies as a ghost movie, right?
No.
There's no ghosts in it.
No, that's my point.
Well, the tenuous fiber that is demons and ghosts and supernatural, right? All of those are looped into a supernatural umbrella.
Like a supernatural soup. They're just like, it's all of that.
Yeah, Exorcist is far from a ghost story. That's insane.
I think we should jump into our 5. I'm going to start with Mark's number 5. Okay. Because we always see whether or not we call out the same ones. And his is Quartermass and the Pit.
Oh, that's a good one. That's a good one.
1967. Apparently, a strange artifact is dug up while trying to build a new section of the London Underground, and Professor Quartermass is called to figure out the strange effects on its people and its origin. Dun 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 dun. So apparently, it's amazing, and the ending is disquieting. And it was made for TV of the same name and aired in 1958, which is great to watch as well. So it has Nigel Keel, of course. We all knew it has Nigel Keel. That's why Mark put it on his list.
Loves him.
So, so it was remade, and it's a great watch, he says. So that is Mark's number 5. And to answer Erie, Florida's question, I did not see the Poltergeist TV series, The Legacy. I didn't see it. Did you guys?
No. I didn't even know there was one. But
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Okay,
I might watch it.
Number 5, Beau, what's yours?
Well, I didn't put mine in a particular order, but pick one. All right, I'm gonna go with Crimson Peak.
Oh,
it's not a great movie. Let me just preface that it's not a good movie, but I liked how they did like the ghosts with like the red and the blue, so they look like old 3D kind of vibes, and it was basically a story we've all heard a million times. You know, we're going to this old house and she's gonna be with this man who's Tom Hiddleston. You know, like it's not the best movie I've ever seen.
And we have a great
you gotta if you're gonna do that movie, there has to be a little sprinkling of incest on top. I just like basically the ghost, how they were interpreted on film, which was different than how I've seen them interpreted in other ghost genre films.
Okay, I will give you that. Okay. Michael, what is yours?
So first, if Mark's listening, I want to have a conversation at why he thinks Quartermass in the Pit is a ghost story as opposed to a Cthulhu Lovecraft story. They could both be the same.
Called out.
Fighting words.
Yeah.
So
we have a gauntlet thrown.
Yeah. So my number 5 is a movie called The Legend of Hell House.
Oh.
Not The Haunting of Hill House. The Legend of Hell House. And
is it the same plot, like similar plot wise?
Similar. Hold on one second. Have a little tickle. So the haunting or the Legend of Hell House is years ago. There's this big Gothic mansion in England, right? And they were investigating. A group of psychics were investigating, and something really terrible happened, and only one of them got out alive. Okay, played by the expert Roddy McDowall, right? So now set around Christmas. By the way, this is set. They're supposed to stay there for 1 week, I think it is, to investigate. They have new equipment. So there's 4 very different people that have different ideas. One's a clairvoyant, one's a scientist. Roddy McDowall is also kind of a clairvoyant, psychic, and it's incredible to find out like what the legend is and what happens. It's I believe it's on streaming. It's fantastic. It's full of great scares. It's full of great atmosphere. It's a great Halloween movie. It feels cold, right? It's just the cinematography is great. I really love it. And it's Richard Matheson was the writer who put it together. So, it's certainly got some street cred there.
Oh, I like it. I like it. Okay. So my number 5 is going to be Stir of Echoes.
Can you remind me of the plot? The title is familiar, but
I
Kevin
just
Bacon
remember the
plays-
fingernails. The
Yeah.
fingernail getting caught in the
Kevin Bacon plays the bad
hate that.
guy, and I love it so much.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Stir of Echoes is going to be my number 5. If it's kind of like another one of my favorites that didn't make the list, but it's the same kind of thing where somebody who normally plays a hero for us plays the bad guy, and that's What Lies Beneath with Harrison Ford.
I love What Lies Beneath. That's a good
What Lies Beneath with Harrison Ford is. I love that movie. They did a great job with the ghost in that movie, but both of those Stir of Echoes and that one have some of our favorite hero type guys normally going to the dark side. So I appreciate that.
Yeah. That's great.
So let me go next on Mark's list, which I just want to point out Mark's oldest movie on his list is from 1980. But this is not that movie.
No. Quartermass in the Pits from 1967.
Yes, I know. I'm just saying I've looked at all of the ones on his list now, and
he doesn't have any modern films at all.
No, not at all. But his number 4 is The Uninvited from 19.
Oh, that's great with Ray Milland. Yeah, that's great. That's a great one.
Yes, he says Ray Milland and Ruth Hussey. I hope I said that right. Discover a new home is haunted. The shadows and innovative camera techniques still hold up well. And then there's a good mystery, he says, hiding behind what's happening. And I think they remade The Uninvited, didn't they?
They probably.
Or there's just been that title used before, but it's a very general title.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what about you, Michael? What's your number 4?
My number 4, this is going to be a funny one. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Yes.
Ghostbusters.
Yes. That's on my list. Ghostbusters is on my list.
Yeah. It's, that along with Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein are, perfect horror comedies, and American Werewolf in London. But Ghostbusters, what could have quickly descended into juvenile, kind of Animal House feelings and everything, it stayed true. I mean, at no point, even though those characters are so funny, they still take it very seriously. The Dan Aykroyd, Ray Stantz character is so grounded. Egon Spengler, and the ghosts are scary.
I will say, watching, and I've said this on this podcast before, watching the original Ghostbusters librarian scene, she scared the shit out of me.
Yeah.
When she turned and came towards them.
Yeah. And the taxi cab, when the containment center is shut down, the containment unit's shut down, and all those orbs, which is very similar to a scene in Poltergeist, but these are over the city. It's very creepy. And there's a piece of music when they're going to when they're going back to the firehouse, and a discussion between Dan Aykroyd and Winston Zeddemore, Ernie Hudson, just about Revelation in the Book of Days and what's going on, that just sets the tone at the end of that movie. Like, wow, the stakes are kind of high here, aren't they? This is not just a funny comedy. It's scary. It's good.
Yeah. No, I agree. What about you, Beau? What's your number 4-ish?
I'm gonna go for another horror comedy ghost film, and I'm gonna go with The Frighteners.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah,
Yeah, The
so The
Frighteners.
Frighteners
Frighteners is
was
in my
Mark's
honorable
number
mention.
2. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Frighteners is in my honorable mention. That should have been more popular than it was.
Yeah, it's really good. I don't understand why it doesn't come up when people talk about like Michael J. Fox's film roles.
Yeah. Well, and directed by Peter Jackson. So,
Yeah,
and the effects are fantastic. I mean, the score is fantastic by Danny Elfman, and it's scary. That movie is scary.
yeah. There
Yeah.
are definitely, I remember like really scary moments, and then they would like add a little comedy so you could like catch your breath again, and then they would be like smack upside the head.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna throw another one that's a comedy in there too, because you said Ghostbusters, so I'm gonna throw this one in instead. Beetlejuice.
Oh, sure. Sure.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
does say he's the ghostest with the
He
mostest. I guess
The
he's a
ghost with
ghost.
the most. Yeah.
he is. He's a ghost, and then the other people are ghosts. Now, the rules of being a ghost are a little bit different in that movie, but I will say even that movie, which was mostly humorous, had a couple really unpleasant kind of scenes that went to it. And I think people don't give it enough credit with how dark it kind of goes if you really look at the undertones of what Beetlejuice was trying to do. Like,
Yeah.
it's all cute and fun, except for he's trying to marry a 14-year-old girl, right?
So, what are your thoughts on Beetlejuice? Beetlejuice.
I haven't seen it yet
Oh,
because we were going to go to the theater, and then we had a little bit of a storm come through up here, just a little tickle of something. So
yeah.
it's on my list to do, but I've heard really great things about it, that they did a pretty good job. But again, I think it's one of those movies, like, I have to not expect something in there and just watch it for what it is, because
Yeah.
it's one of these movies that I've seen a bazillion times. Every Halloween season I watch Beetlejuice. I love it. And I think that if they didn't do what I want them to do, I'd be mad. So instead, I'm just going to treat it like a new movie.
So, I'm going to say something that might be heresy. I preferred the sequel to the original.
Oh,
Michael,
think
you're
the
going to get banned on our show. What are you doing?
No. So here's my thing. I love Tim Burton. I love his aesthetic. I love his mind is amazing, all of that. But his early films, there's a moment where it's like it's a great concept, and then it's like you didn't know what to do with it. So the end of Beetlejuice, what happens? Tell me what happens. Out of
goes
nowhere,
away.
I can
out of
tell you,
nowhere, a
it's
sandworm
great. Like, it
comes
doesn't.
in. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
sandworm.
nothing of that set up. Nothing like they show the sandworms earlier, but she's right. I think she's riding the sandworm. Even I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, the
So
bride is.
yeah. So love Beetlejuice. Love the character. Love the aesthetic. But it always was one of those movies where I'm like, wow, the first 45 minutes are so great, and then it starts to fall apart for me. Beetlejuice to me, a lot of people are like, it had too much going on. I thought it was great. There's so much more about the lore of what the hereafter is. You get to, I really liked it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
It's funny.
like the
Eric Morgan just
musical.
wrote, this makes me laugh. Early Tim Burton is like SNL sketches that go on too long.
Well,
Accurate.
it's
Because
interesting
to me,
because
I will dare say even the first Tim Burton movie that I think is complete, like has a great beginning, middle, and end, is Ed Wood. And then after that is great. But all the other ones are like, oh my gosh, this is so great. And you forgive it, right? You're like, I love that so much. I enjoyed the world, but I don't know what that story was.
So I will say this of Tim Burton's Batman movies, I like the one with the Catwoman and the Penguin was my favorite, because each of them had.
But do you know the plot of that movie? Like, if you know that Catwoman's in it, you know the Penguin's in it. What was the plot?
The Penguin was trying to find his birth parents, and the Catwoman wants vengeance. You know me, I love a good vengeance girl. And she wants vengeance for being thrown out a window. So, like, I'm all about that. But I will say that I liked that movie the best out I felt anyway. We
Oh,
go
I
down
agree.
both.
I think Batman Returns, for the simple, it looks great. The actors are great, and it took place in the snow. Gotham in the snow is amazing.
Yeah.
And they
So
had more villains, right? They had Max Schreck. They had the Red Circus, or was it the Red Circus Gang at the beginning? And
yeah.
yeah, no, I love Batman Returns.
So I think they did good. Okay. So where the heck did we end up on this? Did
We're
everybody
coming up
say
on 3.
okay, but let's do some honorable mentions because
Okay.
there's some that I think need honorable mention that, you know, I need to mention too for Mark that I knew he was going to bring up. So the first one we all know he's going to bring up is Ghost Watch. He lives and
Yeah,
dies by
of course.
the 1989 movie Ghost Watch.
Mm-hmm.
And then Stone Tape, the 1972.
Yeah.
We've mentioned them so many times before, but Mark absolutely loves those movies. I'm going to say so far from the list, I haven't mentioned any of the ones Mark thought I would. Beau mentioned Crimson Peak. He called you out on it. He said you're going to say it. And then Michael, he said you were going to say Ghostbusters is one of the ones he said. So, and oh, hey, King Toad Shane. Yep, there we go. Look at that. Simple plot.
What did Batman want to do?
Okay. No, Batman's just there. He's a prop. Don't bring that up.
Just there.
So let's do your honorable mentions, Beau. Do you have a couple to throw
I
to your
do.
honorable mentions?
The Ring, the remake of it. There are some scenes in it that you know what? If I think about it, that's probably one of the first horror movies that I watched and kind of pulled me into the genre. And like, there's scenes from it that are like stuck in my head, like the horse going off the side of the boat. Was it a boat?
Yep.
Or a cliff? And then like the girl coming out of the well, which I know is played and we've all seen it a million times now. But at the time, it was the first time I'd watched something like based on Asian horror. And then I started watching a bunch of Asian horror, like Two Sisters and
did you watch
those
the
sorts of
Ring,
movies.
the Asian version of The Ring?
I believe I did see it, but I like the American version more because I think it was the first one I watched. It wasn't that they were one was better than the other. It was just the
I don't
first
know
one.
that one's better. I think the one thing about Asian horror, which is not a bad thing, I'm not saying anything bad, but they are way more like esoteric about things. Like they don't have to have clear delineated plot lines. They have a lot of symbology. And so when I watched The Ring, I thought that it was very creepy, very scary, but I went, what? Like some of the plot lines didn't quite go anywhere. So I was like, what is happened? So I went, I'm going to go watch the original. Maybe we bastardized it. No, we added plot. Yeah. We added way more things strung together than the original.
Yeah. Well, it's based on folklore, like Japanese folklore. So of course we're missing elements unless you like delved into it. So yeah. I think that's part of it.
No, I think that's
like
true.
They're like, this is folklore that people already know. We don't have to explain it because they know about it. That's what's happening, I think.
Yeah.
Okay, what's your other one, Beau?
Another one. Candyman.
I have Candyman on my list. That is a ghost movie.
It definitely is.
You know, it's the
Michael looks like he's going to disagree, though.
I guess you can call a vengeful spirit a ghost. Yeah, I guess that's.
It has spirit in the name, Michael.
I know, but favorites. I know, but okay, all right. I love Candyman. I love the sequel they did. I thought it was great.
The new one, I like the new one. Yeah.
Oh, it was great. The fact it was connected made it. I was like, wow, that's perfect.
Yeah.
What about you? What are your two?
Honorable mentions for me. One was Ghost Watch. I love Ghost Watch. I would have loved to have seen Ghost Watch live back in the day. That would have been amazing.
Mark did in England, he's told the story 500 times.
Yeah.
He's bragging.
It's really pretty amazing. And then my other one, believe it or not, is The Haunting of Hill House. Not
Which one?
the original with Vincent Price.
Oh.
Okay.
But here's the thing. Is that really a ghost story? Because at the end, it's very much like Scooby-Doo, right? It was all set up to frame somebody. But it is a great...
If we're counting Scooby-Doo as counting, as we did earlier, because I decided, then that counts too.
Yeah, the house on Haunted Hill with Vincent Price just creaks. It's amazing. I love it.
Yeah. Well, one of my honorable mentions, even though it's not a movie, is Haunting of Hill House, because
that's on my list too. I love that show.
That TV show, even though it wasn't a movie, was phenomenally done.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. Another honorable mention is The Oculus by Mike Flanagan.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
And also, if you follow that up, Dr. Sleep is a ghost story as well.
Yeah.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
Oculus had the best soundtrack ever. Like, it was the creepiest, like, understated soundtrack.
Yeah.
No, it's true. So I'm gonna do an honorable mention that has cheese to it, but I enjoy. It's my cheesy ghost movie, which is Ghost Ship.
Oh, that's great.
The first 5 minutes of it is blah, but the rest of it
goes wonky. But I'm telling you, like, but I'm a huge fan of Deep Blue Sea. Don't even get me started. We're gonna do
I love that movie.
movies at some point. Michael, we'll have you back.
We're gonna have to have Michael on. Yeah.
Deep Blue Sea, man, love it.
My hand is like a shark fin, deep blue. That's all I got to say.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so
we're not going to fight anymore. We're going to climb out. Anyway, I love Deep Blue Sea. I love a good shark movie. So
yeah, no, I think it was one of the more brilliantly done, but it's not a ghost movie, so I'm going to move on. Yeah. Okay, so let's go for number 3, which I'm going to throw marks out there first, and then I'll go next. Number 3 is John Carpenter's The Fog from 1980. So coastal town, haunted by vengeful spirits. So he says that John Carpenter's score still gives him chills. It's a great mystery. Again, skip the remake. So what I think is really funny is one of my favorite comedians, Susie Azard, formerly Eddie Azard, has this joke about the fog in San Francisco is very much like John Carpenter's The Fog, where it's kind of chasing you everywhere and moves really fast. But that was a good movie. That was scary. I mean, Fog in general was scary, but that movie, I love the Avengeful Ghost. We all know that. But so my number 3 is The Others.
Oh, that's a good one.
Because
I like the twist at the end. It was good.
Yes. That is definitely a twist at the end. If you have not seen The Others, I'm not going to give it away, but I will say the way they did that, I was like, what? And that rarely happens for me. Normally I can suss out the plot of a thing and I'm like, okay. But yeah, that one I was like, what just happened? And it was so brilliant. It's very slow pacing, though. I will say that. If you like action, fast, this is a very slow burn to what's going on in this house. So that's my number 3, The Others. What about you, Beau? What's your number 3?
My number 3 is The Orphanage. I really like that movie. It scared the shit out of me when I saw it. There's a part where she plays a game with a ghost that made me feel physically ill because it was scaring me so bad. And sometimes I think about it when I'm like in the dark and I'm like, if I just knock on this wall, what will happen? But I really love that movie. It's great. Highly recommend.
Very cool. What about you, Michael? Where are we at on number 3?
My number 3 is the original 13 Ghosts.
Woo!
Not the remake. The remake's good.
So my number 1 is the original, the remake of 13 Ghosts.
Okay.
That's my number 2.
So have you seen the original?
No, but
we've heard about it.
So you have to understand. I discovered 13.
Schools. We keep fighting. Keep going.
Yeah. I discovered 13 Ghosts on TV, right?
Okay.
Because the movie came out in 1960, so it was playing on like, those weekend ghost shows like Creature Features or what have you. And I would love to be able to go back in time and see 13 Ghosts in the theater because William Castle, who is quite the showman, had a gimmick that was called Illusiono, and it was a card that had a red gel and a blue gel. And in the movie, it was shot in black and white, but they tinted things red and blue, right? So then
Mhm.
you would see something come on screen and it would tell you, use your glasses. Like I think a character would pick it up. And when you looked through the blue, there was nothing. But when you looked through the red, there was a ghost on screen. And now you can watch it without the Illusiono glasses. And it's still creepy. And what I love about it is, and I don't want to ruin it, but I'm going to, it sets itself up at the end to be like, oh, this was somebody that was just trying to get their money, but it's not. And the best part is that there's a housekeeper who is played by Margaret Hamilton, the Wicked Witch of the West from Wizard of Oz, later in her
Oh,
career. And her last line, the little boy looks up and he's like, "You're really a witch, aren't you?" And she just smiles and picks up a broomstick and walks out of the frame.
wow. Yeah, no, Mark brought it up because when we did our 13 Ghosts episode and I discussed the Black Zodiac, right? So if you want a whole 13 Ghosts, go listen to that episode. But the reason I love that movie is it has so much lore built into it.
Yeah.
It's not just like, it's haunted. I love these movies. And I think for a haunting movie, you have to have really good lore built into
Yeah.
where this comes from and not just somebody died in this house, because I feel like if that's it, it doesn't hold water very well.
Yeah,
I
no,
like that
the
it's
lore of
not a
every one of those
normal haunted
characters,
house.
right? The lore of every one of those characters is fully realized, right?
Yeah.
From the makeup to the storyline, things like that. I think during the time or shortly thereafter, um, what is the name? Rocky Point Haunted House out in Salt Lake City. They've been gone for years now, but they were pretty long running, and the lady that ran it actually had a 13 Ghosts, and Greg Nicotero helped her with the makeup and provided props and things, and there was a 13 Ghost haunt out there, and it was apparently perfect. So
That's awesome. But yeah, so 13 Ghosts I see is on all of our lists.
yep.
We already killed Mark's number 2 with the Frighteners, but what I figure I'd do is there's a couple movies that 13 Ghosts, by the way, was on Mark's list for me, so I knew that was coming, but not for you, Beau. He actually thought you would mention Poltergeist, believe it or not.
Weird.
So I'm just throwing that out there. And then so I think one of the things, so he brings up some ones that are non-scary ghost movies like Field of Dreams,
Mm-hmm.
Blackbeard's Ghost,
Mm-hmm.
High Spirits,
Yep. Ghost.
Harvey, Ghost,
Ghost. Yeah.
Ghost.
Although the end of Ghost is pretty terrifying
Yeah.
when they
Yes.
come to
I've
get.
never seen it.
Oh, it's good. It's good.
It is probably one of the, I think it's
Vibe
one of
with
Whoopi
that.
Goldberg's best movies. I
Yeah.
love Whoopi Goldberg in Ghost.
Yeah, and Patrick Swayze. I mean, it's a romantic, heartfelt, and scary. Right? There's a lot in that that's really great.
Yeah. So what do we think of Casper? Because I love Casper the Friendly Ghost.
Which one though? The
one with
cartoon, the
Christina
Devon
Ricci.
Sawa one? Yeah.
The Christina
I've
Ricci.
seen that one a million times. I don't know if I like it so much as it was always on.
I think it's about as faithful an adaptation as you could have done of Casper.
Yeah.
And I mean, Christine Ricci's great. The music by James Horner's great. You know, all the cameos at the beginning with the race dance running out, like, who are you going to call? Somebody else. No, it's really good. It's really good. It's just I think Casper's one of those that has kind of gotten forgotten about.
Mm.
Yeah. The other one that is a children's ghost movie that a lot of people don't put in the ghost movie category is Hocus Pocus.
Is it a ghost movie?
The summoning the ghost of the Winifred sisters.
But they're not ghosts when they come back.
I know,
They're
but that's
witches.
what they're
We
supposed to
decided
be.
this was a zombie movie, Erica.
Well, there's a
Hocus
zombie
Pocus is
in
a
it.
zombie movie.
There's
Yeah.
a zombie, but it's a ghost movie.
I don't know. I need to hear some more proof.
I don't agree with that either.
Erica.
Okay,
I don't think
that's
Hocus
fine.
Pocus is a
That's
ghost
fine.
movie. I mean, it's great.
But ones we haven't talked about are ones like the Paranormal Activity.
Love those movies.
They're
So,
fine.
The first one's great.
A huge fan. I liked the first one, but I feel like now it is so overdone. Like
Sure.
to the nth degree that it's lost all of its muchness to me.
Yeah.
You know, like
I guess I can still hold on to the first time I watched the Paranormal Activity and the fact that it, you know, when he got pulled out of the room and the door slammed, it was like it was pretty terrifying. There's also I don't know if you'd call them haunted house. Well, I don't know if you'd call them ghost movies, although I'm going to bring them up. Is the Hell House LLC movies are fantastic.
Mm.
I don't think I've seen those.
There's 3 of them, and there's a whole there's 4 now, and there's a whole lore behind them about this hotel that these guys take over to create a haunt, and it's really good. It's really good.
Well, you know, that's interesting. What about Insidious?
I hated Insidious.
See, I kind of view Insidious as more about demon than I do.
That's what I think too. Mark mentioned it, but I really want to go.
I guess the end is ghosty because he has to go into like that.
The further, yeah.
Fog place, yeah.
I would dare say Insidious is more demon, and Conjuring is a ghost story.
Don't talk about it. It's on my list.
Okay, well, how about you talk about it then? Because by the way, he thought I would mention The Conjuring, and no, I will not mention The Conjuring. Go for it.
Look, Mark and I agree on this. We've discussed it before. They're fun to watch. Are they good? No. Are they fun? Yes. And they are ghost movies, all of them. Except, yeah.
You're saying that The Conjurings aren't good?
Some people say that.
This one scene, that alone was amazing.
That is a good scene. Look, I like them. I watch them every Halloween. They're always good to me. But other people don't think they're great movies, and they're full of lies. But it's fine. I like them.
I will say the very first Conjuring is a ghost story. The second one, it gets into a ghost story, but it starts with Amityville, which is a demon story.
Yeah, but then it goes to Enfield, right?
Like, is a demon. Here's the thing. I mean, Ed Warren was a demonologist. So
yeah, he said so.
Again, it's that fine line of it's supernatural.
This is the line I'm going to touch with the whole Warren thing. They threw everything into a demon category, regardless of what it was, and that's all I'm going to say about that.
Right. Accurate.
Would you say Annabelle is a ghost story or a possessed object story?
That's a possessed object story, but
it's haunted by a ghost. So it's still a ghost.
That's the case.
It's possessed by a ghost.
Here's the thing:
or a demon,
it's haunted by something. I don't know what that something is because I just go, is it a ghost or is it not? But I mean, you can go pick up Annabelle now. Obviously, she's not that dangerous because you can go hold her at conventions and don't get me started. I could go down.
Well, you can't hold the original.
No. She's still in a cage.
The Warren's
the brother-in-law.
Something. Anyway, don't get me started. It makes me
all right. Number 2. What's your number 2?
My number 2 is The Sixth Sense.
Valid.
Because that is my entire existence growing up was I see dead people. That's literally my life. And I remember when that movie came out. So I'm going to give it this thing is I didn't watch it. I didn't watch the previews. I watched nothing because the moment I heard that line, I was like, I live that. I don't need to watch this movie, right? But then a friend of mine brought it over on DVD way back when that happened, rented it at Blockbuster. Oh my gosh. And so I went over, he brought it over, and I remember because I was pregnant with my daughter, I think. And he put it in and we start watching it. And 20 minutes in, I go, oh, Bruce Willis is dead. And he looks at me. He's like, how did you know that? And I'm like, because nobody's talking to him, blah, 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 blah. And he's like, fuck you. And he gets up and he walks out. And I was like, okay, that escalated really quickly. But I think that movie was so well done. And the way the ghosts were and just the plot of that movie, and then pretty much every other thing M. Night Shyamalan did was not good. So,
well, how do you live up to that though?
It's like he peaked, and then he's been trying to reach that ever since.
And he's made
not
good
working
movies.
out.
He just hasn't made another movie like that.
Yeah,
that's true. I did like The Village. I will say that I actually am a fan of The Village.
I am too.
Just, that's a different movie
same.
and a slow burn, but
yeah.
I thought that was well done. But yeah, the Sixth Sense, I thought that was really great because if you didn't get that plot giveaway in the beginning, you get to the end and it's definitely another like, what the hell just happened?
Yeah, no, it hits you like a ton of bricks.
Yeah, and they don't shy away from showing you things that are messed up, like the whole scene with Misha Barton, and her mother had like poisoned her or whatever. Like, you'd think they would shy away from stuff like that when your main actor is like a little child, but that scene like sticks in my head. Like, it was still like, I watched that movie recently and I was still like, this is actually kind of scary, and I've seen this movie before.
Yeah, no, exactly. What about you? Well, where did Beau go? She just disappeared from the screen.
What? I'm reading.
There you are. Okay. What's your number 2, Beau?
Well, we kind of did my number 2 is the Conjuring movies and how much I love all of them, even though.
Okay. What
and
about you?
I can't talk
Michael?
about my other one because Mark is going to make fun of me.
My number 2 is Mark's number 3, which is John Carpenter's The Fog. I love that movie. It is a perfect campfire ghost story. The music is still something that I listen to when I'm writing. I love that soundtrack. I love the look of that film. I love the kind of survivor aspect, the vengeance of the ghosts. It's just great. I love it.
Yeah, no, it's good. It's good. Okay. Well, then that puts us at the number 1 slot.
Wait, what was your number 2?
I said my number 2. It's The Sixth Sense.
Oh. I thought, and Beau's was The Conjuring.
Yeah, she was The Conjuring. Although I will
all
say
of them.
that I'm just gonna throw out the fact that I've mentioned now all of mine except for 2 that weren't really mine, which was Paranormal Activity and The Conjuring. There's 2 on Beau's list that haven't been mentioned yet, and 1, 2, 3 on your list, Michael, that haven't been mentioned yet. So
I think my number 1 probably is on there.
I think so too, but there's 2 others that I don't think are on. You haven't mentioned them.
Okay.
And one of them is The Sentinel.
I love that movie.
Yeah, here's the thing though. That falls into the supernatural, like Rosemary's Baby, devil kind of cult thing. So I didn't view that as a ghost movie.
But it literally says in the blurb that it's haunted.
No, but it's also he's watching the gates of hell. He's the sentinel over the gates of hell.
So, okay, a borderline movie. The next one is Burnt Offerings. You forgot that one, didn't you?
I did. I forgot that one. I'm ashamed.
Okay, so he
I'm
mentioned
leaving.
those 2 for you.
I'm ashamed. I love burnt offerings.
You can't, because I'm going to leave the other one, which I believe is your number one. And then Beau, here are the ones. One of the ones on his list for you is one that I almost put on my list, which is Woman in Black, because it's a vengeful ghost. And I love vengeful ghosts. But it's
a good movie, but it's also a period piece, so it is a slow burn sort of movie. But there are really good scares in it.
Okay. And I'm not sure if his other one for you is your number one. Did you already say your number one?
No.
Okay.
Mine aren't in order.
I don't want to give it away. So his number one, because my number one has already been exposed, which was 13 Ghosts, but so I'll do another honorable mention. His number one is the 1963 The Haunting, which is which is based off The Haunting of Hill House, greatest book ghost movies of all time. Ignore the remake, watch the original. The Netflix series is great, but doesn't hold a candle to the original King of Haunted House flicks. I argue with you there, Mark, because The Haunting of Hill House on Netflix was bent neck lady.
It's impeccable. Perfect show from beginning to end.
Yes, the dread is palatable from the first scene. Robert Wise made a masterpiece. So The Haunting is his favorite one.
Mark is going to hate me, but one that was on my list that's kind of an honorable mention is The Haunting remake with Liam Neeson. I can feel his rage from here.
No. I'm going to pretend you didn't say that.
I love it. It's so stupid, but I love it.
I'm going to mention The Changeling with George C. Scott. Terrific ghost film. We're going to do that instead because we're ignoring what Beau just said.
Yes, we are.
Yeah. Okay. Moving on to your number one, Beau.
Again, not my number one because I did my list out of order. If I was going to pick a number one, it would be the Conjuring films because they're fun. But if I'm going to say another recent movie that I enjoyed that was ghosts, even though Michael's about to disagree with me, Smile.
Oh, that's not a ghost. That's not.
It is a ghost.
Demon.
It is not. That is a demonic entity. That is what that is. That is a monster. Yep.
Well, it's good.
I love
sure,
Smile.
yeah.
Smile is brilliant. It's not a ghost movie. Okay,
that's like saying Halloween's a ghost movie.
You know what's weird? When I was looking up lists of ghost movies, Halloween was on the list, which is wild because I don't see how it could be.
He puts a ghost sheet on. That's like saying, it's the Great Pumpkin. Charlie Brown's a ghost movie, or
he puts a sheet on. Ghost movie.
Yeah.
Well, you know what though? I mean, if you look at it, like any of these slasher films like that, and you look at Nightmare on Elm Street, stuff like that, the whole premise of a lot of these guys is they were people that were evil or whatever and then killed, and this is them coming back. It is a far stretch for me to put them in the ghost category though, because they're sort of more of a different kind of entity that
like they have a corporeal form. They're not like ghosty.
Yeah.
So now the novelization of Halloween is that Michael Myers is somehow influenced. I hate to use the word possessed, but there's an ancient Samhain spirit that is causing him to do what he's doing. And then later, they went with the thorn stuff, which some people like, some people hate. I just always liked Michael Myers. Like, you never really knew what was going on. Like that to me.
Yeah, me too.
The Shape. When they called him the Shape, it was that's terrifying to me.
Yeah.
Well, and I also I'm gonna go down a little bit of a path real quick before we go back to this. But one of the things too, like with a lot of these horror things, like the Nightmare on Elm Street, that first one was terrifying the way they did it. It was
they get silly after that, but
yeah,
it
got
fun.
silly, but the premise of that and this thing coming to you in your dreams, there was some cheese in the first one, but it was a very scary movie. Like the scene where he's dragging the body bag with her in it, and she's like, oh, anyway. But the same is true with Friday the 13th. I felt that was so much scarier that it was the mom and not some monster thing going after all these people that had hurt her son, right? And it was
I like that.
real life monster. And then the first Halloween where he's trying to kill his sister. Like,
Well, sister didn't come into it until Halloween 2.
Oh, that's true.
So you read at the end of Halloween. That's why it's so powerful. It was the boogeyman. As a matter of fact, it was. That is one of the classic endings that I would love to have seen that movie for the first time and then have to walk out into the night after that. Just that the fact is the boogeyman, right?
Yeah.
Well, that was the boogeyman. He disappeared. It's great.
Yeah. Okay. So, Beau, I'm just going to throw out that one of our famous
I have another
to say to you.
Number one.
Right here.
Okay.
That's what's being said by one of our travelers.
Well, you know what? I like it. I don't care.
Okay.
I live by my love of Liam Neeson, and I don't care.
Okay. So, Beau, the movie Mark thought you were going to say was 1408.
I did. That is a good movie, and he knows how much I love Stephen King. But this brings up my actual number one, which is The Shining. But I like the TV miniseries of The Shining because it's more Michael's face. Because it is more true to the book. It's more true to the book.
Okay, so there was a set of ground rules. We said ghost film. So The Shining, you're speaking
Erica
of
said The Haunting of Hill House, which is a TV series.
Mentioned that it was the TV series and not on my list. So we're ignoring Beau now. He's 0 for 2.
I like the movie too. I like the movie too, but I like them both for different reasons.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So Michael, go for yours because I believe that was your number one, wasn't it?
So let me just preface this. I love Mick Garris, who did the Shining television miniseries, and the Shining television miniseries is faithful to Stephen King's book. But my favorite ghost story film is The Shining. Even though it's not Stephen King's The Shining, that movie is pervasive with a sense of ghosts. Yeah. Every frame, it feels like there's something there. And the unexplainable quality of that is driving Jack Nicholson, Jack Torrance mad, and the things that start being seen. It's so great. And that's why I put Dr. Sleep.
I love Dr. Sleep. It's so good.
Dr. Sleep was amazing. Again, and the fact that what I loved is that Dr. Sleep, even though it was written by Stephen King and the script was more about what the Stephen King book was, it still kept the aesthetic of what we know from the first film. But The Shining, just even those slow motion shots of Danny screaming, the ghost girls, it's terrifying. Even now, like, I dare you to watch that in the dark. It's effective.
And it always had the vibe that there was something just slightly off screen that you cannot see, that you were going to turn and something really scary was going to happen. There was such a foreboding.
Yeah. It sets you up, right? Like you're moving through a place and you can't stop. You don't have control. So you're like, I don't want to see this. I don't want to see it. I don't want to see what's around the next corner. It's like, well, you can't stop. I mean, it felt like a nightmare. It felt like a ghost. It felt like you were being taunted. It was great.
Yeah.
And I love the lore of just what Kubrick was trying to do, right? I love the book. I love Stephen King, but the lore behind documentaries like Room 237 and all these things.
That was an interesting documentary. Some of it was a little out there.
I know, but then you kind of got to go like, well, why would Danny have a homemade Apollo shirt?
Yeah.
Like why? Why in 19?
Like why are those props there? Like that,
right.
Mural or whatever.
Calumet with the Indian and all that. Like that was not, everything in that movie had a purpose. And I mean, that's why we're still talking about it.
You know what's
40
interesting is
some odd
we
years
talked
later.
a lot about like possession and things showing up, but I think one of the biggest things that's really terrifying about ghosts in general, or ghost movies, is the unknown, the unseen, and the inability to contain, right? Is, if done correctly, I mean, a lot of times we talk about, ghosts being tied to a place or a person or things like that. And a lot of these, later movies we're talking about is, this haunted area, but like that whole thing in The Shining was you being trapped in the winter in a place you couldn't leave from.
Mhm.
And you don't know what's around the next corner. And there's like, unlike when you're talking about some of the monsters and stuff, not that we can all beat up the monsters and stuff, but I think one of the scariest things is something that you have no way to at, right? You can't
Right.
win against these things necessarily. And that's what's terrifying. I mean, you talk about 13 Ghosts, and I haven't seen the first one, but the reason that was so scary to me was, first of all, these things had a very poltergeist type quality to them, right? They figured out a way to contain them, and then they started letting them out, right? And the only way
And then you as the audience are contained in there too, and everything's like moving, so you're getting more stuck, and it feels claustrophobic, and you feel like nervous as these ghosts are coming up behind like the main cast.
Right.
And I think that's what they did in Paranormal Activity. The first one was you're sitting there watching people asleep, having these things about, and you can't get in there, you can't do anything, and you imagine yourself being the one that's asleep while this is happening, right? And being dragged out of the room and stuff like that. Because, yeah, scary. Scary, scary. Here, this is what Rick is going to give you, by the way, on your stupid haunting movie.
Look, I will never, ever apologize for liking shitty movies, okay? Never.
Now, Beau, there are shitty movies, and there's The Haunting.
I like it.
It's terrible. Come on.
It's the hill she's apparently going to die on. So
No, the hill I will die on is that I'm a Stephen King purist, and the miniseries is great.
I didn't say the miniseries wasn't great. I said the movie was great. I love the miniseries. I acknowledge that. I acknowledge it. After I saw the movie first. I saw the movie The Shining first, and then I read the book, and I was like, huh. Loved them both independently. Love the miniseries. I think the miniseries is fantastic. But my favorite ghost film is The Shining. Now, you want to give that to Stephen King or Stanley Kubrick? I don't know. I mean, it's both of them. It's like Peter Benchley and Steven Spielberg together, right? The movie Jaws is not the book. Although I think The Shining is a better book than Peter Benchley's Jaws, and I'll probably get a lot of flack for saying that, but I'm not a big fan of Peter Benchley's Jaws, although I recognize he created an amazing situation.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Well, we're going to have to go down the water movies. I think we should do that sometime.
Deep Blue Sea. Deep Blue Sea.
Yes, but the scary water movies, because there are quite a few of those scary water movies, things that beneath the surface, right?
Oh, sure.
So with that,
well, Lake Placid, Deep Blue Sea, obviously the one that's behind me in Jaws, but everybody loves Jaws. There's one I dare you to watch that's actually pretty grisly. It came out in the 80s. It's called Humanoids from the Deep.
Oh, I've seen that. That will be on my list.
Moly.
We're going to talk about that, but not tonight, because today was ghosts. Michael, thank you so much for joining me and Beau.
Thank you.
Listen to her totally ruin our entire lives with her stupid choices. So
no, she has a point of view, and some people like, I don't know, other things that are wrong, but
I never said I was a connoisseur of film.
Obviously not.
That is.
We're not friends anymore.
Oh my God.
We are.
So
no, I think I think it's charming that you love that movie. I just was so disappointed by that movie. I saw it once and was just angry because there was so much, the fact that it was going to be a big budget remake of the original, which was so beloved, and the stars that were in it. It's like Liam Neeson, amazing. Lily
Tomlin, I think. No,
Yeah.
Taylor.
No.
Lily Taylor.
No. Lily
Lily
Tomlin
Moon? No.
was
Anyway,
No, not Lily
Rita
Tomlin.
Jones, you know, but you know when I knew we were in trouble is when Lightning McQueen showed up, when Owen showed up. Wow, there's some ghosts in this house. Look at that. Wow, look at that angel statue. That's pretty. Wow. You hear those things creeping around? Wow, I don't know what to think. Wow.
Okay. So I'm gonna get us past this because that movie does not need any more airtime from us. But Michael, you have a book coming out. Can you hold it up? Do you have it with you?
I sure do.
Ooh, what do you have coming out? Because this kind of fits into our Undead October.
Dun, 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 dun. Hunter's Tale, Volume 1, Hunters and Hauntings. Coming out Halloween, October 31st. Pre-order now.
Yes, it's up for pre-order. We will put a link in the show notes. It has, why don't you do a little brief description of what they're going to find in that book?
They are going to find stories of haunts, hauntings, original fiction from the people that have brought you some of the coolest haunts in the industry.
It's amazing.
And also interviews, all new interviews. So there's me. Yeah, it's fantastic. Absolutely fantastic.
Yes. So absolutely, you guys, if you love anything about haunting, haunts, haunted events and things like that, check this out. It is an amazingly fun book, and it's from the voices of some of the biggest people in the business, including J. Michael Roddy. So it's exciting. So Michael, thank you so much for being here with us.
Happy Halloween.
Yes, happy Halloween. And with that, my Garth Marenghi has nothing on J. Michael Roddy. Okay. That's
Who's
from
Garth Marenghi?
Florida. I'm not sure.
You don't know who Garth Marenghi is?
No.
He's
okay. That is a different show. We will go over Garth Marenghi.
Is he in The Haunting?
No.
He probably would write something just like The Haunting, though.
I will explain later who Garth Marenghi is. And with that, guys, thank you.
Does he make pie? I love a good meringue pie.
No. Thank you so much, travelers, for listening. We appreciate you being here. And of course, as always, make sure you pay attention to those things that go bump in the night. There are probably going to be way more trick-or-treaters this year than there are actually kids in your neighborhood. And if you're wondering if something's watching you, it probably is. And with that, we will see you on the other side.